Granger causality test in the distributed lag model. Here consider GDP of the current period depends upon the lag value of the money supply and lag value of the GDP, gross domestic product, and also it depends upon the error term, that is UT. And money supply, it depends upon lag value of money and lag value of GDP with the error term, that is U2. The first equation, putting a name, and this is the second equation, money supply, M, MT, its current period money. There is consider some steps for equation 1 as well as equation 2. Here M, it's a money supply. In equation 1, GDP depends on it. Lag GDP, it's GDP T minus J. And lag money supply, and from equation 2, money supply depends on lag GDP and lag money supply. Here M, small m, is number of M lag term. Capital N is the number of observation. Small n is the number of lag GDP. Here K is equal to small m plus capital M. To test causality, followed some steps. Steps 1, regressed current GDP, that is GDP-T, on all the lag values of the GDP as well as the lag values of the money supply, but do not include the lag M variable that is known as the restricted regression, and residual sum of square corresponding to it, it's known as residual sum of square restricted. That means regress GDP on all the lag values of GDP as well as the money supply, but not include the lag M variable. And other is unrestricted residual sum of square. Now we run the regression with GDP as the dependent variable and all the lag term consider here. This regression on it's known as unrestricted regression, and corresponding residual sum of square is denoted by RSSUR. RSS means residual sum of square. Here we will check the hypothesis. The null hypothesis H naught is first consider sum of all alpha terms. It's I. Here I, it's equal to 1 to M. It's equal to 0. That means there is no relationship between GDP and the lag value of the money supply. That means alpha, sum of alpha is equal to 0. But let's check if there is any relationship between current GDP and lag value of money supply or not, or its lag term M do not influence. So if sum of alpha it's equal to 0, that means lag term money supply do not influence GDP. Here null hypothesis is H naught. We consider F distribution, that is F is equal to our residual sum of square restricted model minus residual sum of square unrestricted model divided by degree of freedom. That means M. From where we get M? In the next slide I will discuss it. And divided by residual sum of square unrestricted model divided by degree of freedom. What is degree of freedom? The degree of freedom of the unrestricted model, that is N minus capital N minus M plus N, where we know that K, capital K is equal to M plus N, because we consider all the terms lag terms here in the unrestricted model. So our objective is to find out whether the alpha is 0 or not. If the calculated F statistics, so there is a mistake. I said that F distribution is not F distribution, it is F statistic. Exists the critical F, and if calculated if it's greater than tabulated, then we reject the null hypothesis, or we accept H naught when lag M value causes changing GDP. If we reject null hypothesis, that means sum of alpha I is equal to 0. Reject, that means there is a relationship. If F calculated is greater than F tabulated, that means calculated F is greater than tabulated, that means we reject null hypothesis. What was our null hypothesis? That is alpha is equal to 0. Alpha is equal to 0, that means GDP does not depend on the lag of money supply. But here we reject the null hypothesis, that is why alpha it's not equal to 0. So there is a relationship between GDP and lag term of money supply. So if we reject the null hypothesis, the lag value influence on GDP. But GDP not only depends, uh, so GDP not only depends on lag value of GDP, but also lag money supply. That because we reject null hypothesis. We reject null hypothesis means alpha So we accept the alternative hypothesis, that is alpha I not equal to 0. That is our alternative hypothesis. We accept. For the second equation, the same step will follow to check whether money supply depends upon lag values of GDP as well as lag values of money supply or not. So regress current money supply on all the values of money supply, lag value of money supply, and as well as lag value of GDP, but do not include the lag M variable here. So it is known as residual restricted model. It is so the restricted sum of square denoted by RSSR. Now we regress money supply, the dependent variable, and the lag value term. This regression is called the unrestricted. Here we consider all the lag term and a corresponding residual sum of square denoted by RSSUR because it is unrestricted model. We now check the hypothesis whether there is relationship between the money supply, current money supply with depends upon the uh, lag value of GDP or not. So there is a mistake that the term not be beta here. The term will be delta. The coefficient will be delta. Uh, the coefficient delta with GDP. So delta is equal to or equal to 0 or not. If 0, that means that there is no relationship between current money supply and lag value of GDP. But if not, then there is a relationship between money supply, current money supply, and lag value of GDP. So if here also same, the process is same, that restricted sum, and there we get the F statistics. If the calculated F statistics is greater than tabulated, then we reject the null hypothesis. That means we accept the alternative hypothesis. Uh, that is denoted sum of delta it's not equal to 0. That means current money supply and lag value of GDP has a relationship. That lag term GDP influence on current money supply. This is the F statistic. Same, the degree of freedoms are same. Our objective is to find out that this delta term is zero or not. If zero, then there is no relationship, that there is no influence of lag GDP on money supply. If not zero, then there is influence of lag GDP on current money supply. Degree of freedom is n minus restricted model, n minus capital N minus small n, and unrestricted model capital N minus small m plus small n. And finally, how to get m term. Here I mention m degree of freedom. So I already mentioned critical value and tabulated value here. So in conclusion, m depends lag value of GDP. GDP depends on lag value of m. There is endogeneity of the model. Here we cannot say which variable exogenous, which variable endogenous. They are correlated to each other. That is, there is a causality relationship. There is a causal relationship.